Hi everybody, Dee here from D is for Digital. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome to today's masterclass, which is all about how to start an interview series with leaders or people of interest in your niche. Now, I have been doing a lot of interviews recently as part of this masterclass, and I do them in my own business as well. And do you know what? I really enjoy doing interviews. I think it's one of the most fun things to do. It's easy to do, it's simple to do, and it's great content that connects with my audience. It's been a real breath of fresh air over the duration of COVID-19, which is obviously still going on, but being able to find out what people are doing around the world during this crisis, how they're leveraging technology to create new businesses and to create new revenue streams in their businesses, because there's so much talent out there. Like, I get excited about it. There's so much talent out there and people doing interesting things, and I don't think it gets enough coverage on the media. Our media is generally full of doom and gloom. We have the odd happy story when I think there's so much going on behind the scenes, and I like to be able to shine a light on you sort of what I call ordinary but extraordinary talent, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I have discovered the power of bringing an interview format kind of content into my business because it resonates and connects with people on a very different level. So I wanted to use today's masterclass to share a little bit of behind the scenes about how I structure my interviews, how I connect with my interviewees so that you can do it for your business too. Now, why would you want to do interviews? Well, one, if you're starting out, or maybe you're only thinking about getting into social media or online, one of the great things about interviews is that you don't need to create any content. So, because a lot of people get stressed out about being on social media or having their social media strategy, and you have to create all this content, and to a certain extent that's true. But interviews, there is value in curating content. You don't have to be the source of the content all the time. Other people can be the source of the content, and your job can be, like I see it, as a facilitator and a curator of content so that you can find interesting people who would like a little bit of maybe publicity or attention that would add value to their businesses or whatever they're doing. But it's also for your own customers, you're creating and bringing these talented people to them so that they can learn lessons from what they're doing. So creating content isn't always about having it come from your head for you to create it. Being a curator and facilitator is a great way to do that too. And one, also, you learn so much. Like, I learned so much from the people I interview. Every single interview I have done to date, I've learned something from that person. So it's also a really sneaky way to continue your personal and professional development. So it's good for your business, it's great for your audience, and it's fabulous for you too. So why wouldn't you want to do it? Now, if I think of the different kinds of businesses and how you can use interviews, I mean, you can use, if you have a lot of staff, you could interview people who are of interest to your staff and have it as an employee engagement kind of activity. Obviously, if you know your customers well enough and the kind of people that they would be interested in, you can reach out to them. It could be with influencers, it can be with celebrities, it can be people in your home country that are doing amazing things. And really, the first thing you need to do before kicking off an interview series is select the theme, or what's the thread that's going to go through all of these interviews. What's the main purpose behind them? So for me, my interviews are about shining a light on talent that are doing amazing things and have a sort of an element of digital to them, given that digital is my area of expertise. And I want to be able to show that normal people can do this. You don't have to be extraordinary, but you can come with a standard skill set and still have an amazing idea and have that translate online. So all of my interviews are about that element of shining a light on talent so that we can publicize what they're doing from a digital perspective, but also in terms of, sometimes I just like really good people are doing really great things in their communities. I also like to shine a light on that as well. So there's a consistent message in my interviews. There's a consistent area of focus in my interviews. So what would it be for you? Because you don't want your audience to be confused, and one day you're talking about this, one day you're talking about that, but that there is a theme so they know what they're tuning in for. They know the kind of, content that they're going to receive. Because if someone's going to take whatever, it's 5 minutes, 50 minutes to sit and watch an interview, you want them to know that they're going to get something of value. So, and the beauty of this is the theme can be anything. You might, if you're a technology business, interview people in all different elements of technology and how technology is being used in small, medium, and large businesses in different countries, in different ways, in different industries. Yeah. It can be for entrepreneurs, because there's so many different kinds of entrepreneurs. It can be about a specific problem. For example, it might be about money, and interviewing people who are in financial services or who have made money or who've lost money and made it back, like on budgeting, on technology that relates to saving money and efficiencies. It's endless, but you want to be clear about what your theme and topic is, so that when you're promoting your interview series, that people know what they're tuning into, right? Because if you tune into the Ellen DeGeneres show, you know what you're going to get with Ellen. It's going to be feel good, and it's music, and it's inspiration, and it's upbeat. The same with Oprah. Oprah is about, I suppose, a little bit more heavier than Ellen in terms of tackling important stories, and again, but also inspirational, and there's spirit of generosity about everything Oprah does. So you know the people you're going to tune into, what they're going to bring you in terms of their interviews. So what will it be for you? And if you can get clear on that, it makes everything else then really, really easy. It makes it easy to choose who you want to be interviewed or who you want to interview. It makes it easy to choose how you're going to market that. So it all kind of falls into place, but it starts with getting clear on your theme. Now, once you're clear on your theme, we need to find people to interview. And I expected this to be harder than it was, but no, it's not very hard to find people to interview because there are so many interesting people out there. I personally would use these master classes to shout out, sort of go, if anybody does want to be interviewed, if anybody would like to be promoted, if anybody has an interesting story, to contact me and let me know. So this is a great way for me to find people. But actually what has happened more so is that some of my viewers who watch the masterclass know people, and they'll go, no, you need to get in touch with Dee because you need to be interviewed because your story is great. And shout out to Frankie Burke, who's doing that. Frankie in New Zealand has sent me so many fabulous people to be interviewed. So there, and Abera Larcher in St. Lucia as well. Thank you, Abera. So there's fantastic people who know fantastic people who put them in contact with me, which makes the whole interviewee process easy. But I also reached out to my own network at the start. I went through my LinkedIn profile, and I reached out to some people who I thought would be too busy or too important, and they weren't. And you'll be surprised about how many people are delighted to be interviewed and flattered to be interviewed and stand to benefit from being interviewed. And I think it's important to have win-win when you're asking someone to do something for you, that there's something in it for them as well as for you or me. And in this case, I love that someone would get publicity that they may not have gotten, or be able to reach a wider audience than they would have been able to do themselves, so that there's something in it for them. They stand to benefit. And one of the questions I will ask when I'm prepping with someone for an interview is what does success look like for you in this interview? What are the questions that are important for me to ask you? Who would you like this interview to be seen by? Because it helps me, I suppose, guide the interview in a certain way so that they stand to really, really benefit from giving their time to be an interviewee. And then I get the benefit of spending time with them and creating great content that I can share. So once you're clear on your idea, it becomes actually quite easy to sort of go, who are the people who sort of fit into that? But reach out to your network, reach out to the people that you know, because maybe if you don't know who you want to interview, you know someone who will know someone who be of interest to be interviewed. And don't be afraid to reach out to those who you feel are more important or busy or senior, because everybody loves the light being shone on them. Yeah, everybody likes an opportunity to be able to talk about themselves. I think this is one thing that I've seen worldwide. We all like to talk about ourselves every now and again. So giving someone an opportunity to do that is amazing. Now, as one of the things I've learned myself over the past couple of months as I've been developing my interview process is finessing what I call my onboarding of interviewees. So I like to do a prep interview before I do the actual interview, especially with someone I don't know, so I get to have a chat with them so they're not nervous when they come on to do the actual interview, so that we can make sure that, it's thought through and questions are clear, and if anyone's nervous, I can allay their fears. Now that, as we've gotten sort of more busy, it has not always been possible, so I've created a questionnaire now that goes out to anyone who wants to be interviewed. Vish on my team will send out the questionnaire, which is a set of questions, which is what I would have asked if we had been doing it like this. But it allows the person to I suppose, get into the mindset of what they want to achieve in the interview. I get a chance to sort of explain my process and how it will go and how we'll link up and stuff. So that has streamlined everything. It makes it easier on me from a time perspective, but it also is organized for the interviewee, because you want the person you're interviewing to be able to show up in the best way possible so that they're not nervous or worrying, where is this interview going to go? What am I going to be asked? So that you can allow them to, I suppose, turn up in the best version of themselves possible. And that's really important. You want the experience for the person you're interviewing to be excellent. You want it to be enjoyable so that they can come across great on video. So you may want to think about, how is that process? How do you reach out to people that you want to interview? How do you make it easy to gather the information you're going to want so that you can prep professionally for that interview to happen, and so that your interviewee can show up in the best way possible? And last but not least, then, it's just thinking a little bit about the technology and how you're going to do it. So I do my interviews through Zoom like this, but I also do it through Be Live. There's software called Be Live, which allows you to go live in interview format on Facebook, because you can't do interviews on Facebook Live. It's one person. You used to be able to add in people, but that's just, functionality seems to be gone. But Be Live allows you to go live on Facebook, where in interview format, and allows you to have the ticker going along with contact details. And if people sort of post comments while you're doing your interview, you can bring their comments onto the screen. It's really kind of cool. It sort of, I think it enlivens the interview format. So I'll use one or the other, whether I need to go live or not. If I don't need to go live, I like Zoom as well. So you can choose either of those. You can also decide whether you're going to pre-record or live. I try to do a mixture of both, but from a timing perspective, generally I'll pre-record my interviews. So you'll have a little think about the technology and making sure that your interviewee knows how to access that technology too. That's part of the onboarding process. When are you going to send them the link to where they log into? And also, very importantly, I don't want to forget this, that they have the right Wi-Fi, like the Wi-Fi bandwidth is okay, that where they're doing their interview from, that the lighting is fine, that their face isn't too dark, that the background is kind of organized. Because sometimes an interviewee won't think of these things if they're the first time they've been interviewed, and they're a little bit nervous. So sometimes doing a tech check, if you can have one of your team do that or you do that, just to make sure that the quality of the voice, that you can hear each other, because it's hard to focus on an interview where the sound is going in and out, but also that you can see the person, that their face is clear, that you can sort of go, maybe move that chair out of the background or whatever, so that again you're helping them present themselves in the best way possible during the interview. And really that's it. You will want to think about your interview questions. I tend to go with my gut a little on my interview questions. I will have a structure, because my interviewee needs to know that there's a structure rather than it's going to be questions everywhere. So I will have agreed on some questions, but then I also sort of say that there will be other questions that will come up based on what they say during the interview, because I want it also to be natural. Some interviews can seem quite robotic. I ask one question, you answer, then we go to the next question. I like them to be conversational. I like people to sort of feel like they're listening in on two friends just chatting about stuff, so that it's very, natural. So you'll want to think about your interview style as well. What kind of questions do you want to ask? How do you want the tone or the feel of the interview to be? Is it going to be, maybe it needs to be formal? Is it relaxed? Is it serious? Is it funny? I mean, it's totally up to you. And again, what your audience is going to want from you. So those are other things you can think of. But I highly encourage you to do it. It's really easy, very entertaining, very educational, as I said at the start, a great experience for your interviewees, and wonderful content to be bringing your customers. So if you haven't done interviews yet, I'd encourage you to think about, how could you use an interview format? And it may be video, but it could also be audio. You could do it on a podcast. You could even do it as a blog, right? You could sort of send questions to your interviewees and have them answer them, and create a blog from it. So the interview format doesn't necessarily need to be video. It can, but it can come in other formats as well. So have a think about it. And if you are doing interviews and you want to share them, comment below, drop me an email at d@dhutchinson.com. If you would like to be interviewed so we can shine a light on you and the wonderful things that you're doing, d@dhutchinson.com, just drop me a message. I'm always looking for great people to interview, and that, I'm sure, is you. So that's it for today. Get your interview skills on, and I will see you tomorrow for our next masterclass.